Well, welcome to the sixth and final programme in the Coppers and Brass series, part one. This week we're going to look at a family who's made a major contribution to Irish traditional music over a couple of generations and are continuing to do so. It's the Mulligan family. I'm delighted to have Neely Mulligan here with me. Falch your oath, Neely.
Good meal, Mahogany, Tommy.
No, no, Haber. And we'll be going back to Neely and having a chat about the background of the music and where the Mulligans, where they're going musically and where they've come from musically. But before we do that, to give you a better understanding of this remarkable family, let's have a look at this.
TP, we all call him. Well, he came from the parish of Bornacoola in County Leitrim, and he was the eldest of a family of 7. And he played the fiddle, as did his father, where he got the music from. And his brother was a fiddle player, and he was his sister as well. And the brother made fiddles as well. But he came to Dublin in the 30s, and there wasn't much work available. He went into digs, got a manual job in a place in North Strand. But he met a flute player called Crawley. He was a cook in Mountjoy Jail, and he was a flute player from Sligo, and he got him into a circle of musicians here in Dublin, and they networked, I suppose as the word would be, and he ended up working for the Irish Life Assurance Company, which was a white collar job. So his circle of musical friends increased until they eventually formed a club down in Church Street. It became known as the Fiddlers Club, or the St Mary's Music Club in Church Street, with the likes of John Egan and John Brennan, and there was great stalwarts of music. From Desi O'Connor would have been there. Came from that club, was at its height there at the end of the 50s and the start of the 60s, when they moved on to the Brunagale in North Great Georgia Street, and they ended up, I think, they were in the King's Inn. The music, well, there was 8 of us in our particular family, 5 boys and 3 girls. Certainly 4 of the boys stuck at the music, you know.
TP encouraged his children to take an interest in Irish traditional music.
On the road here over in Church Street, not too far away from Smithfield here, that our father sent myself and Neely off to play the whistle with a boy by the name of Ned Stapleton years ago. And it's just right around St Mary's Club on Church Street, and my father formed with John Egan, the old flute player, and John Brennan and all the old gang, and old Ted Fury used to come in there years ago, and Finbar.
Alfie's father, you know, Tom Mulligan, he was a great man, and John Kelly too. And of course John Egan. My father used to call them the 3 Musketeers, and the 3 boys that always went in together. Like, I played in Church Street Club with Alfie's father, you know, and I had some great times with old Tom. Tom Mulligan, great man. Also, Tom was very fond of. He loved a piece of music called Dowd's Number 9, and it was a very difficult thing to play in the fiddle, and I used to play it on the pipes. And he said himself, and he used to always throw the head back when he wouldn't be sure of the note. The eyes would, and you knew when you had him, you know, and he'd be playing, you know, if he made a little, you know, and I enjoyed playing with Tom. Yeah.
Neely, Tom, Alfie and Jerry have adopted the same passionate love affair with the music as TP did, and they have successfully passed that torch on to their children.
Neely the Piper. And he has a family now of 4, and they all play music, you know. He has a son, Feiseanna, a piper and a fiddle player, and a daughter, Quiva. She's a lovely, lovely fiddle player now. And the other 2 coming up, Oisin and Ava, are both playing the fiddle, you know. You have Alfie, who's living in Dundalk, and he has 3 kids. He's Sive, a grand flute player, and Tig, fiddle player, and Sarah, concertina player. My brother Colm has 3 as well. There's Siobhan, plays the fiddle, and Neve, the whistle player, and Pádraig is piper. And there's my own, with Tomas, who's a singer and guitar player, and he used to play the accordion, but that's gone by the wayside at the moment. And then I have Shiva, who's a grand fiddle player. She's heading off to the States now on a student visa for the summer. And Maeve here, who's a concertina player and a fiddle player. She's a grand musician now. So that'll be the majority. I have a sister, Grania, who has a couple of kids they're playing, but they're not at the broadcasting stage yet. And like the tradition is strong there, and it nearly goes from strength to strength. And I have a brother, Jerry, he's based in Boston, he's a piper as well.
You know, it's so hard to be away from home, you know, because the music is so down to earth here and everything else like that. There's great music over in Boston, but there's nothing like coming back home to experience that.
It's great to be over here with all the Mulligans and, you know, my family, because, you know, being from the States, I don't really get as much original Irish music as I would like. And, you know, just being over here, the environment, and just seeing my family as well, just it feels good, you know, and you wouldn't get this anywhere else, you know what I mean? This is really original and one of a kind, and to see everybody in the family playing, it's just, you know, it's remarkable, and, you know, I really like to take advantage of it every time I come over here. I don't know any other family that has such a strong musical connection as the Mulligans, and it's really an honor to be here, none the least.
As well as encouraging his children to maintain TP's legacy, Tom set about creating a mecca for good quality traditional music in the Cobblestones Bar in Smithfield, Dublin.
We have it 7 nights a week. We don't have a television now, so we don't know where we're going to watch this. But 7 nights a week, it's all about music, really. We try and make it a welcoming space for acoustic musicians, all in the traditional Irish music genre, and it's there for anybody to come in and play if they're and to be made welcome. You know, that would be the outlook and the policy. You know. It's a great meeting place. There's never a week goes by that I'm not fascinated by hearing somebody I haven't heard before, and the quality of the music. And it's generally the younger ones all the time. You know, I mean, there was a time I could honestly say I knew every musician in Ireland at one stage, either by reputation or by sight or personally. But at the moment, the way music is just growing it's phenomenal. You just say, where did they come out of? You know, that's a familiar retort every week.
Perhaps he was subconsciously extending his father's vision of creating a quality meeting place for musicians, similar to the Fiddlers Club in Church Street in the late 1950s and the early 1960s.
Left us all with a great legacy, I have to say, and a great. He left us with a great circle of people that we can move within, you know. And everyone throws something into the bucket, you know. It's into the mix, you know. It's great. It's great. He was a great ambassador, you know. I mean, I was very proud of him, you know, as you could only be, you know. And I'm also proud of my own generation in the family, and even prouder still now of the ones that are coming up, you know. Can't say anything better than that about them, you know. Long may it last.
That was mighty stuff from the Mulligan family. I don't know how many of them were there, but they were making some music. Neely, that must have been really enjoyable experience.
Absolutely great to kind of, especially having Jerry over from Boston, and it's not very often that we'd all get together like that. And it's a great occasion, and wonderful that you made it possible. So
may there be many more of them.
Yeah.
I just noticed in the video there's a photograph of your father with the pipes. I always associated him with the fiddle. Did he play the pipes?
He played the pipes as well. Like, he taught me the first day. He had a set of pipes. He first heard the pipes played by Leo Rowsome in his local town Mohill in 1932, and he literally fell in love with the sound and came to Dublin 3 years later, and after another 3 years he had a set of C-sharp pipes made, because he'd met Séamus Ennis, and Séamus had C-sharp pipes. So he mentioned that it was Séamus and Tommy that showed him things on the pipes, and because of that, he also played the flute and the whistle, so he would have been self-taught to a great extent.
He didn't get any formal lessons, just a few tips from the lads.
They would have showed him basic stuff, I'd say, and a few little triplets and things. He could do triplets and stuff like that, so he was quite good. And he strapped them onto me the first day, but he also got
What age were you at that stage?
I started on the whistle in Church Street, so about 11. So a couple of years at the whistle. But when he came to Dublin, he also got involved. He's very friendly with Tommy Reck and played with Tommy all over Dublin, because Tommy could play the fiddle as well. So the two of them could interchange instruments.
What a team.
And what a team was right. They got involved in the Pipers Club in Molesworth Street, where you had Tommy on the committee, Tommy Reck and my father and Leo Rowsome and a lot more. There had to be 75% of them on the committee had to be musicians. And what do you call it? The photograph you saw there of Tommy in disguise with a moustache and my father with a beard walking down.
Is that who strange characters were?
But I don't think it was Lee. They got permission to play. They wanted to raise money for that club. If they didn't raise money on that particular day, it was a flag day, the club would have folded.
My God.
Yeah.
Depended on that.
And so Tommy and himself, Matt Kiernan happened to be the guard on duty that day,
Matt,
the Piper.
Pipe Bigger.
He said to them, play well, you'll be grand lads, I'll keep an eye and everything will be fine. So they made a great collection. But out of that particular club, Coltus was formed through Thomas Street.
All right.
So that kind of
It was the
moved to
genesis
Thomas
of
Street.
a lot of the things that were happening.
So that'd be 1951. The first Fleadh was in Mullingar, and he told me he went down there. He couldn't see a musician playing anywhere except Leo Wilson was playing upstairs in the hotel. Right. But he went back to a Fleadh there a couple of years later and was full of musicians. So that was the very first Fleadh. So he was involved in that capacity all along the way, and he would have brought us to a lot of Fleadh Ceoils and summer schools down through the years. But he was involved in the people Yulin too the first day.
Yeah.
And brought me along in 1968 to Bettystown to the first Chunall.
You were at that first one?
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a great honour and very memorable, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it was his involvement with piping in that respect was very, very important, you know.
And he made sure that he gave all of you an opportunity to appreciate and learn it. Did he force you towards the music, or did he encourage you?
No, he encouraged us. He sent me off to, he talked to Tommy Reck, and he showed me all that he'd known at that stage and what I do with him now. And Tommy said, send him over to Leo Wilson in the School of Music. So it's ironic that he first heard Leo playing in 1932, and then he ended up teaching me in the School of Music in Chatham Row, and also in Thomas Street of a Saturday night. So we're going to Leo twice a week.
Another big passion of your father, I understand, was the Irish language.
Yeah, he was. He didn't have the language, and my mother wouldn't have had. They would have been just. Well, he was just educated as far as primary school. Because he was the eldest, he kind of worked on the farm, and then he had to move to Dublin eventually for work. But he wanted us all to have the language, and bought a caravan, and I was with him. They brought it back to Connemara, and Polo Wheel gave him a site there for it. It was running Closh the Rogan at the time, and we went there for every summer from when I was a kid.
All the family?
Yeah, for 2 months at a time, July and August. We spent our summers there learning Irish in the college every morning, and we could playing sessions in Hughes's or the Cruiskeen or whatever at night.
You're getting
well,
a
at the
double
weekends when he'd come down. He'd come down on weekends, and then he'd come down and spend 2 weeks as well. But there was a lot of great musicians like Paddy Bonner Bryn, Tom Fodgin Tom. A lot would come out from Galway for the sessions as well.
Had your mother any Irish?
She wouldn't have had much Irish. She went on to do nursing, and she went to school in Tipperary in boarding school, and then went over to Romford in Essex to learn nursing over there. At the time you had to go abroad to pick it up. But she was very fond of the music. She was related to Brian MacMahon, the writer. She was a MacMahon. I remember John Kelly, the fiddle player, saying to her that her people would have come across the Shannon from Clare. And she was right at the mouth of the Shannon. Bale, a place which means the mouth.
The mouth.
Bale, just at the cliffs of Dooney, there, very beautiful spot. But she loved the music. She particularly loved pipes and slow air playing on pipes.
So your father would be, obviously better known to the musical fraternity, but your mother had big influence in what you were doing as well.
Oh, she had indeed, because she was the one that looked after us in Connemara and baked the bread and
the bread
oven
on the table,
and
the hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah. But she was wonderful, and she was. She only died there about 12 years ago, so she was a great age. She was in her 80s when she died. But wonderful woman to rear 8 of us and the whole lot, So
both of them left a great legacy, and we're just going to have a more fuller look at that, and we're going to go back over to the cobblestones, to Tom's place, and join the rest of the Mulligan family.
Now, folks, we're here on the 19th of March 2013 in the Cobblestone Bar in Smithfield. My name is Tom Mulligan. I want to introduce you to my family. You can figure out who they are when you're throughout the piece here. We're all descendants of Tom Mulligan from Bornacoola and Leitrim, who left us this legacy, and we want to play a few tunes. We're going to play a selection of jigs here, the Lilton Banshee, the Killavel jig, and the Kesh, for starters anyway. Okay. 3 times round, I'd say. 3.
1, 2, 3.
Right, that was great music from the Mulligan family in the Cobblestones. It must have been a mighty session.
Absolutely fantastic. Great to play with young and old. You know, it's a fantastic feeling.
It looked really great. Your father was able to combine his passion for music and language by bringing you to the Gaeltacht. You must have had happy memories of those
It was
trips.
probably the happiest holidays we ever had, you know. And I've a photograph here I just came across recently again
yeah.
of us all in the Gaeltacht. You can
Where are
see
you
it there. This Miché there. You can see how young, like, Grania and Alfie were going to the Gaeltacht.
All right.
You know, and there's my father and mother in the background. So we were brought there every year for 2 months, you know. So I think that
And there was music there as well.
music, and I got my first gig in the local pub, T Coulon down there.
Were you in short trousers at the time?
Well, I put it to you this way, Tommy, I didn't need a prashkeen, which is the leather for over the knee. Yeah.
A multifunctional leather.
Absolutely.
Neely, there's lots and lots of stuff I'd love to ask you about your father and mother and the family, and we've covered a lot of it in DVD. But in terms of the development of music, what your father did, and at the time when he and others came into Dublin, music was at a very low ebb at that time, and there were a few people like your father came together. That had it made a change in the way the music was beginning to develop then.
Yeah, I think it did true what I was saying about the Pipers Club in Molesworth Street and development of the club in Thomas Street and Coltus out of that. But when he came to Dublin, like, you couldn't play in the pubs in Dublin. A lot of people don't realise that. Like Tommy Reck, I remember telling me after my father died, telling me the only place you could play in public, the two of them could play in public, was at a feis. So that's why they used to go on trips out to Ireland's Eye and Skerries to play music in isolated locations, you know. And I mean, they had to go onto an island, Ireland's Eye, just to play music. So that kept the music alive. And you had a lot of people coming from the country as well. And they all, a fellow called Tim Mulligan in Dublin had a kind of a party house. They used to go there a lot, and they'd meet and they'd play music. And these were known as house parties or Cayley houses. And that's how they kind of kept the music alive. And that's why the likes of the Pipers Clubs and the St. Mary's Music Clubs were formed, was to give a location. Like, there was no drinking in
there was nowhere else to play.
No. So yeah, they went to the hall. If they wanted a drink, they'd go outside and go down to the pub in the corner. But generally, it was all inside, and they were teaching music. When they're in the Pipers Club in Thomas Street, they bought 4 different sets, 2 from Rouse and 1 from Mulchrone, and 1 from another pipe maker, I can't remember. And they sent them off to their pipes, sent them over to School of Music in Chatham Row. So that was the developing of the uilleann pipes as well in those days, you know. And now the people uilleann are doing it in the Pipes and Loan School.
And of course, worldwide phenomenon now, but it wasn't then.
Yeah. So that was very important, and I think the development of the Fleadh Ceoils, where they could go around the country, travel, that was a big thing for them to go down to a Fleadh Ceoil.
This was in the early 50s.
And my father also adjudicated, so he would have got a certain amount of accommodation and expense. And that was a very big thing for him. Himself and John Kelly and Desi O'Connor would be regularly asked to go and adjudicate at Fleadh Ceoils all over the country.
So that migration from the countryside came at the right time. The music was low. It was
the dawn
on its knees,
it was the dawn of the recording era too, the 78s and the LPs in the 60s. And music was starting to be played on the radio Éireann as well, you know. So all those things were kind of coming together. And I think what they call
thank God they did.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it was only kind of in latter years that you could play in pubs, you know.
Well, finally, Neely, we've had a look at the family background. We've seen the present generation playing. What are your reflections on the legacy you got from your mother and your father?
Well, I kind of, when I play with my kids now, I kind of have an understanding of maybe when my father and myself were playing, I would the sense of pride he would have had in playing with his children. I can see that in my brothers and sisters and playing with their kids as well. But there's that kind of sense of passing the music on, go gloon from generation to generation. And we're doing exactly the same thing as he did, and hopefully our children will do the same. But you can see the development, say, like, it was my father that suggested starting the Joe Mooney Summer School down in Drumshanbo, because he'd been at the Willie Clancy one for years, and said you could do the same thing up here. And now it's in its 25th year now. It didn't start. He died before it started, like, you know. But he had sown the seeds for it to start. So he was a man of vision as well, And he had the vision to send us all to learn the Irish and learn the music, and he was a man of great vision and embraced culture, Irish culture, in a most loving way, and also imparted that culture.
And it's very
to
obvious
everybody.
that you've all, I know your brothers and sisters well, and they've all got that same passion.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to know your children, many of the nephews and nieces. I think you can see from that performance this evening that it's there, it's natural, they're laughing at it.
Yeah,
you must be very, very proud.
I'm very proud all around, of all generations.
Listen, can I thank the Mulligan family through you for everything that you've given us, not just the cobblestones, but in Dundalk and Drumshanbo, everywhere you go, where the Mulligans go, it's always guaranteed to be first class, top of the shelf music. Gur a million and Margaret.
And the Piper's handshake.
Piper's handshake. This is a secret one, nobody's supposed to know. My affair.
Or a meal Margaret family.
Well, that's the Mulligan family, and a small, but I think long overdue tribute to a great, great family. That brings us to the end of the series. I hope you've enjoyed Coppers and Brass. We've tried to take a look at different aspects of Irish traditional music that often don't see the light of day and don't get debated enough. There will be another series coming up, so keep an eye out for it. In the meantime, many, many thanks. Agus slán abhaile.